Let's talk to Ricardo. He is from ActivTrades. Very good morning to you.
Good morning, Nick.
Right, let's kick off trade wars. Okay, Mr. Trump suggesting the Chinese are trying to influence the midterm elections. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, it sounds a bit rich coming from him. I mean, there's a good case to argue that he's the instigator behind the so-called trade wars and trade tensions, international trade tensions. I probably would say that China has been somehow contained and restrained in the way they've reacted. It's only recently that I announced the imposition of tariffs on $60 billion of American imports in retaliation to the $200 billion that the US have already put in place, and also there's a plan to add over 200 billion more in the coming months. So China imposed tariffs on $60 billion worth of imports from the US, which compared to what the US has done, I mean, what else could they do? Just sit back and watch. I suppose the other thing that they could do that would probably have more of an impact and create more tension would be to use the treasuries that they're holding as to weaponize that and to put pressure on the US, but it doesn't look like they have any intention to go down that route, at least for the moment.
Yeah.
I don't think that you can read that from the reaction of the Chinese, although President Trump has a point in the sense that that would probably be their intention. If there is something that they can do which is easy to deploy and will be accepted and not escalate the tension to a level where it can go beyond any control, then they would probably do it. They would very much would like to see a Democrat-dominated Congress and Senate in the US, that's for sure, to act as a counterweight to President Trump's protectionism, because protectionism can have a medium to long-term impact on China to a very detrimental effect and affect the growth of their economy, because internally they're still not able to carry the weight of their economy. Yeah, so that is my view. I don't think the Chinese are actually trying to influence the results of the midterm elections. I think they are just responding to something that was triggered by the American side.
Understood. Okay, 18th of October, D-Day for Brexit. Obviously, the rally in the Great British Pound, outstanding. What are your thoughts there? Are we going to get a deal this side of Christmas?
I would probably agree with most people in thinking that yes, there will be some sort of agreement. What sort of agreement, we don't know. It may be an agreement to decide later.
Yeah.
More likely that. It's true that the pound is undervalued at the moment, so there's a lot that's been priced in already that may not materialize. So depending on how things go, we could see the pound either going up to, say, 145 if there's a very favorable outcome, or dropping down to 120. I mean, we'll see. I think the consensus at the moment is that there's about a 15% chance of a no-deal Brexit.
15%, okay.
A 15% chance of a no-deal Brexit. I would probably agree with that. I would say that the pound is oversold at the moment, and there's some scope for a further upside movement on the pound. And I do believe that eventually the two parts will come to some sort of an agreement, albeit possibly an agreement to decide later.
Understood.
Yes.
Okay. So in terms of the euro, currency of choice, what are your thoughts there?
Well, it's an interesting angle that there's been quite a lot of talk about it recently. The US economy is doing very well, and the dollar has been used as a refuge asset by many investors, I mean, which has had a massive impact, for example, on emerging economies. We've seen that.
Yep.
But there is an element of risk in the current situation, which comes from the fact that the dollar is benefiting from some risk-off sentiment that we saw in the market, but also from the fiscal stimulus that President Trump created quite early in his mandate. And many observers think that that came too early at the wrong time of the cycle, and it is quite possible that when they need it, when the American economy comes to a situation when that sort of stimulus is required, that will no longer be there. Whilst Europe, the euro, will be rising above the clouds, as a matter of speaking, and potentially next year, towards the end of the year, we could see some interest rate rises in Europe, and also the European Central Bank has perhaps more weapons in their arsenal to use to deal with a more mature period in the cycle. So this may lead many investors to start looking at the euro as a medium to long term alternative to the dollar. So we could see that it'll be interesting if it happens. There's already talks between the EU and the Chinese to try to use a different currency. There's some oil deals in China now being done in yuan.
Right.
So it's quite possible that the dollar will lose at some point its status as the world's currency, as a matter of speaking.
Well, I'm not convinced about that, but that's what makes a market.
It's a possibility. I mean, many people are still reluctant to accept this idea. If you look at the US today and at Europe, of course, it sounds quite far-fetched. But if you factor in these possibilities that I mentioned, maybe it won't be so far-fetched.
On that note, Ricardo, nice to see you. Thank you for your time.
Nice to see you, Nick. Thank you.